What's going on, guys? Happy Monday. Hope you're having a great start to your week. I wanted to jump on and share a little bit of my thoughts about the crypto market right now. Over the last week, it has chosen violence, right? And sold off pretty spectacularly. And there's a bit to unpack with all of that. So I want to take a bit of a deep dive into my thoughts right now and hopefully help some of you guys navigate these turbulent times. This will be my first video on the Empire YouTube, so please cut me some slack. But with that out of the way, let's jump in. So I want to start by setting the frame, which is what I would consider like the prophecy of Bitcoin. And that was really written back in October of last year when essentially Binance and some big players in the market like rugged the whole crypto market, right? Go back to the chart, if you were trading on those days, like, and you looked at what actually happened, like CZ and his cronies freaking rugged the market, right? And with that, they brought prices down to some levels that broke key structural developments that were in play. And it set off a chain of events that led us to where we are right now. And in the midst of that, we came down to the low 80,000s and we spent 2 months consolidating. And throughout this period, it was very much a corrective structure that we were in. And, you can paint bear flags, you can draw harmonics, you can, say we tested certain fib levels or moving averages, call it what you want. But the reality of it was very corrective. And I was very outspoken about this at the time. You can look all over my socials and, in the inner circle within Empire, it was stuff we discussed week in and week out. And as we come down to today, I want to note that while it was a very violent move, it doesn't mean it was like chaotic. It doesn't mean it was random and, it's just like all this bull crap, like, like Trump did this, or, there's some narrative of why it had to come down to this level. And as bad as it is for the crypto market, it's like, hey, TA was respected and it followed a structure and a system to get to this point. So these levels were always in play and were very much a focal point for what we were discussing at Empire. And now we're here. So that kind of leads us to the next thing to discuss, and that's what is next, right? And as we've hit this level, two players, if you will, have emerged in the market, right? You've got the people who are like short to oblivion. This thing is all over, short. And then there are the bottom pickers. And I want to kind of dissect both and walk through the like philosophy and sort of psychology of these people and just sort of attack the stance a little bit and reinforce a major point with you guys. So we'll start with the shorters, right? So if you're someone who's like, crawled out of the woodworks in the last couple of days and you're like, crypto's all over, like we've sold off to 70,000, 60,000, we were trading at 120,000 4 months ago. And it's like, yeah, things are pretty bad right now. It is a very bearish trend that we are in. But if you are trying to get short here, then you need to take a step back and understand the risk is asymmetric. You're at supports. And where were you 2 weeks ago when we were at the top of a corrective pattern and there was just so much value for a swing short trader, right? It doesn't mean, you can't short along or whatever. It just means, if your time horizon is in the vicinity of like swing traders, you don't have any value here for a short position. So patience is the bottom line for that, school of thought at this time. And then the other, player that has emerged is the bottom picker. And, I think their arguments are very much built on two things. One is sort of comparing past patterns and fractals in previous bear to bull cycles and how they sort of mirror what we have right now. And it's always the same thing, right? Like price sold off 20% and then it did these two candles at this moving average back in 2018. And now that means if history is to repeat, we're going to go on a 200% rally. And it's like, man, that is the most bizarre comparison that you're drawing there. Like, yes, you can always, go back and review past fractals and note similarities and all of that. There's nothing wrong with that. But you got to understand, like, hitching a wagon to that idea is very foolish. And then the other like school of thought that these like bottom pickers will try and throw at you is the whole sentiment argument. it's like sentiment is so bad now, and when sentiment is bad, it's good for crypto, like a good time to buy. And while that has been true at times in the past, you can also pull up so many other times throughout history where sentiment has been bad and it just stayed bad for a really long time, and price kept going down for a really long time. And for that reason, like these two, arguments, they lack the most important aspects of what, picking a bottom is really about. And that is about structure and about timing, right? So the process of bottoming requires you to tick off a series of events. It normally starts with a capitulation candle. Price sells off so aggressively and so demonstratively that it just stops literally everyone out of the market, and it sells off in a way where volume actually sort of peaks, and you'll see these candles throughout history in major market bottoms. And then after you have capitulated the market, a period of accumulation must take place, right? The composite man must refill his bags in smaller orders over a period of time. And that's where you get these sideways structures that mirror either accumulation or distribution. And at the tail end of these sideways structures, you generally get a key signature pattern. Most commonly, you see what's called like a 3 rising valleys as you sort of escape this sort of rectangular structure. And this all takes time, right? And the reality of it is like you need these kind of structures to develop, and ideally there's other technicals present at these times which you can sort of structure to your argument before it's like, okay, like there is likely a bottom here. And then the other element is like the timing aspect, because these things need to play out, right? Like you need time for these structures to emerge. The timing element is really not on your side trying to pick a bottom here. There's a thing called opportunity cost, where if you get into the market at the wrong time, even if you are right, you incur this loss because your capital is dead in the water. It's doing nothing. It might even be losing value when you could otherwise deploy it in other more advantageous locations. So that's the kind of argument I have towards bottom pickers as well. It's patience. So the bottom line here is, as crazy as things have been in the last week, as much as you might want to, just short because it's all over, as much as you might want to, just rip into a bag and say, let's go long because we're at the bottom, either sides of this argument have a problem. You have asymmetric risk on the short side, and you have timing and structure non-existent in the long side. So patience is very much needed here. Doesn't mean don't trade. There are plenty of strategies which are going to be useful in these environments. Very much short-term stuff is fair play. But this is very much to, I think, the loudest people in the room when we look at this space, the people who are vying for your eyeballs, and they're just going to throw these clickbaity type ideas at you. It's all over for crypto, or, now's the best time to buy the bottom. These people don't have the best interests of you at heart. They have vested interests in making sure that your eyeballs are stuck to them, because if they're not, they aren't able to make money. And that's the bottom line. So I just want to go through these ideas with you guys and talk about where my head is at. I'll post so many charts and analysis and run through these concepts as we, navigate what is, a bear cycle in my eyes. But at the moment, I just wanted to talk through the psychology of where things are at now that we have hit some critical levels that have been, targets of mine and of people within our empire sphere for some time now. So with that out of the way, I'll end this video here. Thank you so much for listening and taking the time to hopefully heed the words that I've shared. We're going to be doing more things like this on the Empire YouTube, so make sure you look out, and please support with liking, sharing, and subscribing to the channel. Thanks, guys.